As a child, I would complain to my parents about experiencing a lot of abdominal pain. After many doctor visits, it was written off as the stomach flu or something he ate that was bad or just gas. Little did we know that later on in my early teens, my appendix was starting to rot away inside of me, and one day I was rushed to the hospital and had to perform emergency surgery to remove said appendix. Very painful, and my chances of surviving this operation were less than 30%. Long story short, I would like to tell you about a certain entity that would visit me during those younger years when I was suffering. I would wake up in the middle of the night alone in my room, writhing in pain and just tossing and turning to side just to find a comfortable place on the bed where I can actually get some sleep and rest. But one night, I remember the room felt a little colder than usual, and this was around late summer. So I managed to drift off and fall asleep, and then suddenly I was awakened. As I opened my eyes, I see an old woman staring at me on the side of the bed. She stares at me intently for a few seconds, then walks around the bed. I've never seen her before. Am I dreaming? She manages to walk around the bed to the other side. She sits down on what appears to be an invisible rocking chair. There was no chair on that side of the room, and she's looking at me with a very concerned look in her eyes. All I can describe is that I felt some peace. I was not scared. But she's not one of the nicest things I've ever seen in my life. She was very hideous looking, and she looked like she must have been about 300 years old. Long, scraggly, grayish white hair. Her skin was very wrinkled. She had some warts on her face. She didn't look like a beautiful person to me as a child. I didn't know any better, but she's very scary looking to me. But for some reason, beyond the physical, I could actually feel something different that took my attention away from all the scariness. I felt at peace with this lady, and I don't know why. So she continued to sit there and rock back and forth with her arms folded. She was wearing an old dark gray and black cloak. She rocked back and forth for several minutes until I actually felt safe to close my eyes and go back to sleep, and I did. The next time I opened my eyes, the sun was up. I got up and I got dressed and I went and told my parents what happened. My mom was very concerned and said that you might have had an apparition of some sort of an evil spirit or something. But I said, no. I said, I was scared because she looked scary, but I didn't feel in my heart that she was scary at all, and I felt very calm and peaceful with her. A few months later, I remember going to bed one night, and I felt a pain, a very sharp pain on my right lower side of my abdomen. I said to myself, oh no, here we go again. I was very scared. The pain was excruciating, and again, every time we had that checked out, it was either something I ate or the flu or something or other. Anyways, I managed to sleep for a little while, and all of a sudden, again, I was woken up. But when I opened my eyes, not only did I see the old hag standing in front of me, there were 3 hooded figures standing behind her. I froze in fear. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. What felt like an eternity probably was just a few seconds. And suddenly, I yelled out for my mom, and I could hear her coming down the hall. And suddenly, all 4 of them disappeared from my room. I told my mom what I just saw, and she was very scared for me, and asked my dad if I could come and sleep in their room. So I spent the night with them in their room, in their bed, and the pain was just unbearable. And again, next morning to the doctor's office, and he said the same thing as he said months prior, or a few years prior to that as well. It's just the stomach flu. So we left it as that, and it was awful. So we went home, and my mom told my aunt and family members about my situation and what was going on. And I mentioned about what I had seen, and my aunt became very concerned and said, maybe we need to take him to one of these places. Maybe they'll, perform some sort of ritual to exorcise these evil things away from him that are attacking him. But I always said to them, I said, well, I didn't feel like I was being attacked. I feel like I was being watched over. At no point did they seem threatening. They looked very concerned. And my aunt said, well, for all you know, they're ready for you to die so they can drag you into hell. And that freaked me out. I was never so scared in my life. I was so afraid to sleep in that room alone, but I had no choice. For the next few years, nothing happened. And then one night, I remember I was not in pain. I woke up in the middle of the night. I went to the washroom. As I walked back into the room, there's the old hag sitting on the side of my bed. I just froze there. She looked at me and she smiled. I didn't know what to do, thinking about what my aunt had told me, that this apparition was waiting to take me down and drag me to the pits of hell. I tried to move, I couldn't move. I tried to scream, I couldn't scream. I just stood there frozen in shock. She then stood up, walked towards me, and I thought, this is it, I'm gonna die. She reached out, grabbed my hand, and started to lead me around the other side of the room. I was so scared, I thought, I'm never gonna see my family again, and she'll drag me through some portal of some sort into the darkness, and I'll never be found. Instead, what happened? She guided me around the bed very slowly. She sat down on what looked like an invisible rocking chair, sat me on her lap, cradled me, and just rocked me back and forth. I felt very peaceful. I didn't feel threatened. But when I looked at her, I felt peace, but at the same time I was very scared just because of her visage. And then suddenly she started to communicate with me telepathically. She was trying to tell me that she was a very, very old soul who'd been around for a very long time. She said she saw my suffering and wanted to come and comfort me, because yes, it was possible that I may not make it. What was happening inside of me, nobody knew. My doctor thought it was just a flu bug or some bad food or something. But yet inside of me, something was starting to eat away and expose me to toxins that later on we would find out that almost became very deadly and almost cost me my life. To this day, I have never seen her again.